MengXiang Toys need to do better than this. This feels like a slightly glorified bootleg figure. Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven today with another low budget scale figure review. I know I have been reviewing a lot of these lately. Number one, because it is cheap, and number two, I am actually curious about all these new brands that I have never purchased before, and it is also a source of knowledge for me. Now that I have actually bought figures from these brands, I have a rough idea what their quality level is like, and then in future when I do figure news fix videos and everything else related, then I can incorporate that knowledge into my recommendations on what to buy and what to avoid, if that makes any sense. So for today, we are looking at a figure brand called MengXiang Toys, which this is not their very first figure. This is their second or their third figure, I think. Last year, I remember them best for their 1x4 scale original character Yo-Yo figure, which I did not purchase, did not review, and don't plan to because not liking the character design. That was a 1x4 at 12,000 yen or so. Now we take a look at this one over here, a 1x6 scale Demon Horn Noir 2. That is the title. No name, just original character. And this is an artwork by Freng. The figure was released back in January 2025. I bought it sometime in February and now I'm only reviewing it in March. As for the pricing, 7,200 Japanese yen in Japanese sites. In China, around 239 Chinese yuan, right? So for the price of two price figures, you can get a low budget 1x6 scale figure like this one. The question is that, is it any good? The height of this figure is 27 centimeters, including this pair of horns over here. Moving on to the box, the packaging over here. This is also a double layer box. Outside of this box, there was this carton box over here. I did not have any expectations because this is a low budget figure. And yep, this does not offer much protection to the figure. Just a typical paper box. However, if there is one comment I have about the box design, this feels like the box of a bootleg figure. You see, there are a lot of bootlegs out there. In order to keep their prices as low as possible, they no longer copy the original packaging design of the genuine figures, unlike 5 or 8 years ago, right? They do their own simple box designs, and this reminded me of those bootleg boxes because there is no logo in front, no name in front, name of the character. When the whole thing is just plain with a window in front and nothing else, it feels like looking at a bootleg figure. Yeah, if that makes any sense, but I'm not sure why I'm giving packaging design advice to figure companies, but I think product presentation is kind of important. Okay, so moving on to the stability of this figure. Because the figure is permanently attached to the base, it means that the figure is rock steady, does not wobble at all when you shake it, which is always a good thing. Moving on to the sculpting department of this figure, the detail level is pretty average, even for the standards of a low budget scale figure. You need to remember, when I say average, I'm comparing her to other 7,000, 8,000 yen figures, not to the 20, 30,000 yen ones. And even when compared to Animaster or Bear Panda figures, I think MengXiang Toys over here, their figures are a notch below. Firstly, the outfit and her skin especially, right? It reminded me of bootleg figures even, or some price figures. Especially in this video over here, you see when I shine it under a bright light source, you can see how shiny the skin area is, as if there is no clear coating at all to protect the paintwork. This is the kind of look you get in pretty much every bootleg figure out there. Yes, every single one of them, because they can't afford to use expensive matte coating on their figures, right? And yeah, that is not a great look for a low budget scale figure. Not when other low budget figures don't give me this kind of shiny glossy skin look. The Sister Oko by Model Way that I reviewed last week, that was amazing. It felt expensive at the same price point. Moving on to her face over here, right? I have mentioned at least twice where it felt like her face is a little bit off in my previous videos. But I would like to correct myself over here. I think that my early impressions were a little bit off because lighting. Right, lighting. So the thing with this character's design is that her face is quite flat. So that means that her nose is not as prominent as some other characters. And when you shine light on this figure for photography or for video purposes like today's review, then it is very difficult to get her nose to stand out more, to have any definition, right? And that translates into a figure that appears as if she doesn't have a nose. However, when you look at her from the correct angle, or even under natural lighting, not studio lights like this, her face actually looks like the official artwork. So the accuracy is actually there, but this is also the kind of figure where she only looks best from very specific angles. Ideally, you will want to look at her from slightly this angle over here and from bottom up. So you'll want to put this figure somewhere high up, right? But this wasn't as bad as Bara from Art by Taco. So overall, the face, I can still give it an 8 out of 10. It wasn't as bad as I initially anticipated. Moving on to the paintwork of this figure. Well, things are not as good this time around. Once again, this is consistent with what I just said a few minutes ago. MengXiang Toys is a notch or two below Bear Panda, Animaster, and other cheap Chinese figure brands. Firstly, I want to point out the quality control issues involving the paintwork. There are like 2 or 3 parts over here with paint scratches. So the first one here on her left, twin tail, very obvious, a large spot on top over here, as if the paint is being rubbed off, right? And you'll see a similar problem on one of her twin tails, her right twin tail over here on the side. Yeah, once again, very obvious. So why did this even happen in the first place? Usually it is because the paint has not dried yet, but somebody accidentally touched the figure, or they were rushing production to meet a specific deadline. The paint may not have completely set yet, but then they pack the figure into the box. So when you touch a figure that is still wet, you know what will happen, right? The paint comes off. So that is my best guess on what happens over here, and it shouldn't happen in the first place because other cheap Chinese figure brands, they don't have this problem. So this is not a good look for MengXiang Toys. The next thing about the paintwork, other than the lack of a matte coating like I mentioned earlier, the outfit. Is this kimono or yukata? I don't know how to differentiate them. Paints over here is just like a flat shade of red color, a flat shade of chocolate, brown, and so on. Barely, if any, shading at all. They did the bare minimum with the paintwork of this figure, and if you pay attention to the folds over here, even the black color sash around her waist, the gold color parts, it looks fine. Nothing quite wrong with it, but when you compare it side by side with other low budget scale figures, it feels less refined. Yeah. So you really need to compare in order to see the difference. If it is just one single figure and I'm telling you what I'm seeing over here, you might not believe me, but once you compare it side by side in person and actually touch the figure with your hands, with your fingertips, then you start noticing it. And then even her hair over here, right? I feel like I'm looking at milk chocolate or something. Just a plain shade of chocolate brown with barely any shading. I know I shouldn't be complaining about a low budget figure, but I think I have been spoiled by offerings from Animaster, Bear Panda, and even Model Way recently. So this feels like a major downgrade from those two figures when the price point is pretty similar. Overall, the paint work, this is a solid 6 out of 10 maximum. Yeah, which is to say average. Right? In an exam, if you get 60% out of 100, you still pass the exam, right? So 6 out of 10 is not a bad score, by the way, for a low budget figure. And lastly, the base over here, yep. It is one of the ugliest bases I've seen in the past 1 year. I have reviewed like 15-20 figures in 1 year, and this one ranks in first place for being the ugliest base, yes. It is so shiny, so glossy, I'm not even sure what words to use to describe this figure. It is as if a layer of oil is coating the base. Like, you know, instead of coating the base over here with a very flashy layer of gloss, super gloss even, I would rather them spend on matte coating on the main figure, on the skin region especially. Even if the outfit is not being coated, that is fine, but the skin shouldn't be shiny. Yeah. The base is a 4 out of 10 maximum. Don't like it at all. Nothing quite wrong with it, just that it looks ugly, right? Can I recommend this figure of Demon Horn Noir too? Now you need to remember that the QC issues I faced with her hair over here, the paint scratches, it may not necessarily apply to every single copy of the same figure. Quality control inconsistency means that it does not happen to every figure, but there are certain units affected, right? That's number one. So even if I were to overlook the QC issues over here, this is a low budget figure that for the very first time, I can't recommend you guys to go out and get one immediately unless your life goal is to have an anime figure collection as big as possible. You want to buy 10 figures a month because you're aiming for 1,000 by year end. You want to beat everyone else. You want to beat all of your friends in terms of collection size. Then add it to your shopping cart. But I would rather you save up that 250 Chinese yuan or so. Save it up for another budget figure by a different brand and get yourself something nicer. Yeah. So this is not easy to recommend, except for people who really like the character or the artwork or the artist behind this artwork over here, then maybe yes. But just because it is cheap, it does not automatically mean I'll recommend you guys to go out and buy one. So this is probably the first time in over a year where I can't say I can recommend a low budget figure. MengXiang Toys need to do better than this, because at this point, this feels like a slightly glorified bootleg figure. Until then, if you found this review informative or helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe to this channel for more content like this every week. Until then, please do join my Discord server if you haven't done so. Check out my affiliate links and my Patreon link down in the descriptions below if you feel like supporting this channel in any way. And until then, I'll see you guys again soon. Thanks again for watching and goodbye.